The year was 2347, and humanity had finally reached the stars. After centuries of war, disease, and struggle, the people of Earth had built ships that could travel faster than light. They had explored distant worlds and found that the universe was full of life. But they also found something else. They found that they were not welcome. Commander Daniel Hayes stood on the bridge of the human, diplomatic ship called the Horizon. Through the large window, he could see the Galactic Council Station. It was a massive structure made of crystal and metal, floating in the darkness of space like a jewel. 12 ancient alien species had built it together, and they had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Today, humanity would finally meet them face to face. Lieutenant Amanda Price walked up beside him. She was a young officer with sharp eyes and a quick mind. She held a small computer tablet in her hands and looked worried. "The briefing reports are not good," she said quietly. "None of the alien species respect us. They think we are primitive." "Let them think what they want," Hayes replied. "We are here to change their minds." But deep down, he was not so sure. The Horizon docked with the council station, and the human delegation walked through long corridors of polished stone and glowing lights. Ambassador Catherine Moore led the group. She was an older woman with silver hair and a calm face. She had spent her whole life as a diplomat, solving problems and making peace. But she had never faced anything like this before. When they entered the Grand Assembly Hall, the humans stopped and stared. The room was enormous. Giant pillars rose up to a ceiling so high it was lost in shadow. Floating platforms held delegates from a dozen different species. Some were tall and covered in scales. Others were made of pure light. Some had many legs, and some had no legs at all, and all of them were looking at the humans with cold eyes. Hi, Councillor Thrakos was the first to speak. He was a Voroth, a reptilian creature that stood 3 meters tall. His scales were dark green and shimmered like oil on water. When he spoke, his voice was deep and rumbling. "So these are the newcomers," he said. "The species that took 3,000 years to discover faster than light travel. Tell me, humans, do you still burn dead plants to power your machines?" Laughter filled the chamber. It came from every platform, every species. The Selenari, beings made of glowing energy, flickered with amusement. The Kreth, giant insects with sharp mandibles, clicked and chittered. Even the silent Nexer, creatures that looked like floating jellyfish, pulsed with colors that meant mockery. Ambassador Moore did not flinch. She stood tall and waited for the laughter to stop. "We are aware that our technology is considered simple by galactic standards," she said. "We come seeking knowledge, trade, and peace." "Peace," repeated Councillor Veleth of the Selenari. Her voice was like music, but her words were sharp. "How sweet. Tell us, Ambassador, what do humans have to offer the Council? Your ships are slow. Your weapons are weak. Your species still fights wars among itself. We offer fresh ideas," Moore replied. "New perspectives. And perhaps, in time, friendship." The laughter that followed was even louder than before. Commander Hayes felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his face calm. This was not his battle to fight. Not yet. What none of the aliens knew, what almost no one in the entire galaxy knew, was that the Horizon was not alone. 300 kilometers away, hidden in the darkness of space, another ship waited. It was called the USS Phantom, and it was humanity's greatest secret. Captain Ryan Mercer sat in the command chair of the Phantom and watched the diplomatic meeting through a hidden camera. His executive officer, Commander Stephanie Cole, stood beside him with her arms crossed. "They are laughing at us," Cole said quietly. "Yes," Mercer agreed. "They are, and we are just going to sit here and watch? For now." For now. Mercer turned to look at her. Our time will come. The Phantom was unlike any ship in the galaxy. It was the result of 50 years of secret research. While the rest of the galaxy thought humans were technological children, Earth's greatest scientists had been working on something revolutionary. They had built a ship that could bend light around itself, becoming completely invisible. They had created engines that left no heat signature, no radiation, nothing that sensors could detect. The Phantom could move through space like a ghost, unseen and unheard. It was humanity's hidden weapon. And someday soon, the galaxy would learn that humans were not to be underestimated. Back in the Grand Assembly Hall, the meeting continued. The alien delegates took turns insulting humanity. They questioned human intelligence, human culture, human history. They made jokes about Earth's wars and Earth's pollution and Earth's primitive religions. Through it all, Ambassador Moore remained calm. She answered their questions politely. She ignored their insults gracefully. And when the meeting finally ended, she led her delegation back to the horizon without showing any emotion. But once they were safely aboard, away from alien eyes, her mask finally cracked. That was humiliating, she said. Sinking into a chair, Commander Hayes handed her a glass of water. You did well. You kept your dignity. Dignity does not matter to them. They see us as insects, as animals. Moore shook her head. How are we supposed to build alliances with species that think we are worthless? We show them they are wrong, Hayes said. We prove ourselves. How? They will not give us a chance. They have already decided what we are. Hayes was quiet for a moment. Then he leaned closer and spoke in a low voice. The Phantom is out there, he said. Watching, waiting. When the time is right, we will show them exactly what humanity can do. Moore looked at him with tired eyes. I hope you are right, Commander, because right now, I do not see any other way. In the darkness of space, the Phantom drifted silently. Its crew of 200 men and women went about their duties, maintaining systems, monitoring communications, waiting for orders. They were the best that Earth had to offer. Pilots, engineers, soldiers, scientists. All of them had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might never see their families again. Captain Mercer walked through the corridors of his ship, checking on his crew. He stopped at the engine room, where Chief Engineer Kevin Park was running diagnostics on the stealth systems. How are we looking? Mercer asked. Perfect, Park replied. We could sit here for a year, and they would never know we exist. Mercer nodded. Good, because I have a feeling we are going to need every advantage we can get. He did not know how right he was. In the weeks to come, the galaxy would face a crisis that would change everything. And when that crisis came, humanity would finally have its chance to prove that they were more than just primitive newcomers. They were survivors. They were fighters. And they were ready. 3 months passed after humanity's first meeting with the Galactic Council. The alien species continued to ignore the humans, treating them like children who had wandered into a room full of adults. But then something happened that changed everything. The Kreth. Dominion went to war. The Kreth were a species of giant insects. They had hard shells, sharp claws, and minds that worked together like one giant brain. Their queens controlled thousands of warriors through a mental link, making their armies move with perfect coordination. For centuries, they had wanted more territory, more resources, more power. And now, they had decided to take it by force. Their target was the Selenari, the beautiful beings made of light and energy. The Selenari had grown peaceful over thousands of years. They had forgotten how to fight. Their defense ships were old, their weapons outdated. When the Kreth attacked, they were completely unprepared. Commander Hayes stood in the observation room of the human embassy on the council station, watching the news reports come in. The images were terrible. Selenari colonies burning, Refugee ships fleeing in panic. Kreth warships destroying everything in their path. Lieutenant Amanda Price entered the room with a grim expression. 7 colony worlds have fallen, she reported. Millions of Selenari are dead or captured. The government is begging the council for help. And what is the council doing? Hayes asked. Nothing. They are having meetings, making speeches, but no one wants to fight. Hayes felt sick. He had seen war before, back on Earth. He knew what it looked like when powerful nations stood by and watched while innocent people died. He had hoped that the advanced aliens of the galaxy would be better than that. He had been wrong. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was chaos. Councillor Veleth, her light form flickering with fear and anger, pleaded for assistance. The Kreth are slaughtering our people, she cried. We need ships. We need weapons. We need allies. High Councillor Thrakos leaned back in his seat and shook his massive head. The Vareth cannot spare forces for a distant war. Our own borders must be protected. But the sacred accords say that council members must help each other, Veleth protested. The accords are guidelines, not laws, Thrakos replied coldly. Each species must look after itself. One by one, the other council members made excuses. The Nexer were too far away. The Threlian Collective was neutral by tradition. The Gorath Union had a peace treaty with the Kreth that they did not want to break. Nobody wanted to risk their own ships and soldiers to save the Selenari. Ambassador Catherine Moore watched the cowardice unfold with growing disgust. She thought about all the times these aliens had mocked humanity. They had called humans primitive and violent. They had laughed at human history, with all its wars and conflicts. But at least humans had fought for each other. At least humans had stood up for what was right. She made a decision. The Earth Alliance will help the Selenari, she announced. The chamber fell silent. Then, slowly, the familiar laughter began. Thrakos looked at her with something like pity. Your ships would be destroyed in minutes. Your weapons cannot even scratch Kreth armor. What could humans possibly do? We will do what is right, Moore replied firmly. We will stand with those who need help, even if no one else will. Foolish sentiment, Thrakos said. But if you wish to throw away your lives, we will not stop you. Perhaps it will provide entertainment. The meeting ended, and Moore gathered her team in a private room. Hayes was there, along with several military advisors. They all looked tense. That was brave, Hayes said. But how exactly are we going to help? Thrakos is right. Our regular ships are no match for the Kreth. Moore smiled slightly. Who said anything about regular ships? She activated a secure communication channel. After a moment, a face appeared on the screen. It was Captain Ryan Mercer of the USS Phantom. Captain, Moore said, you have been listening to the council session? Every word, Ambassador. Then you know what I am about to ask. Mercer nodded slowly. You want to deploy the Phantom. The Selenari are dying. The galaxy is watching humanity to see what we will do. This is our chance to show them who we really are. There was a long pause. Mercer knew what this meant. If they used the Phantom, they risked revealing humanity's greatest secret. Other species might try to steal the technology. They might see humans as a threat and attack Earth. Everything could go wrong. But he also knew that some things were more important than secrets. I will need authorization from Earth. Command, he said. You have it. The order came through an hour ago. Mercer took a deep breath. Then we will do it. Tell me where to find the enemy. The plan was simple, but dangerous. The Kreth invasion was being controlled by a single massive ship called the Hive Mind. It was a living vessel, grown from organic material and filled with the queens who commanded the Kreth armies. If the Hive Mind was destroyed, the Kreth warriors would lose their coordination. The invasion would collapse. The problem was that the hive mind was protected by nearly 40 warships and thousands of fighter drones. No fleet in the galaxy could get close enough to attack it. No fleet, except one. Captain Mercer assembled his senior officers in the briefing room of the Phantom. Commander Stephanie Cole stood at his right side. Chief Tactical Officer Marcus Webb studied the holographic map of the battle zone. Chief Engineer Kevin Park and Chief Medical Officer Rebecca Santos sat quietly, waiting for orders. "Our mission is to infiltrate the Kreth formation," Mercer explained. "We get close to the hive mind, we destroy it, and we disappear before anyone knows we were there." "How close do we need to get?" Webb asked. "Very close. Our Spectre torpedoes are stealthy, but they still need a clear path to the target. I am thinking 10 kilometers, maybe less." Cole raised an eyebrow. 10 kilometers from a ship surrounded by 40 escorts? That is insane. "That is why they will never expect it," Mercer replied. Park leaned forward. "I can modify the engine output to reduce our signature even further. If we move slowly and carefully, we should be able to slip right through their formation." "What about the crew?" Santos asked. "This mission could take days. People will be stressed, exhausted. Mistakes happen when people are tired. Then, we make sure everyone is rested and ready," Mercer said. "We only get one chance at this. We cannot afford any mistakes." The briefing ended, and the crew of the Phantom began their preparations. Weapons were checked and loaded. Systems were tested and retested. Everyone knew what was at stake. If they succeeded, they would save millions of lives and prove that humanity deserved respect. If they failed, they would die in the cold darkness of space. And no one would ever know what happened to them. As the Phantom prepared to leave its hiding place and travel to the war zone, Captain Mercer stood alone in his quarters. He looked at a photograph on his desk. It showed a woman and 2 young children, smiling on a beach back on Earth. His family. The people he was fighting for. He picked up the photograph and held it for a moment. Then he put it back down and walked to the bridge. "Set course for Selenari space," he ordered. "Maximum stealth. And may whatever gods are listening watch over us." The Phantom slipped into the quantum fold and vanished from normal space. It was heading toward the greatest battle humanity had ever faced, and the galaxy had no idea it was coming. The USS Phantom merged from the quantum fold like a whisper in a storm. All around the ship, space was filled with death and destruction. Kreth warships moved through the darkness, their organic hulls glowing with strange lights. Selenari defense stations burned and crumbled. Escape pods drifted helplessly, ignored by the invaders. Captain Ryan Mercer sat in his command chair and watched the horror through the main view screen. His face showed no emotion, but inside, his heart was heavy. So many lives lost. So much suffering. And the galaxy's great powers had done nothing to stop it. "Stealth systems at maximum," Commander Stephanie Cole reported from her station. "We are completely invisible to their sensors." "Good," Mercer said quietly. "Take us in. Slow and careful. No sudden movements." The Phantom began to creep forward, moving through the battlefield like a ghost. Kreth ships passed within a few kilometers of their hull, completely unaware of the human vessel drifting among them. Fighter drones swarmed past the windows, their pilots never knowing how close they were to the enemy. On the bridge, everyone was silent. The only sounds were the soft beeping of computer systems and the quiet breathing of the crew. One wrong move, one tiny mistake, and they would be discovered. If that happened, 40 warships would turn their weapons on the Phantom, and they would be destroyed in seconds. Chief Tactical Officer Marcus Webb studied his displays with intense focus. "I have located the hive mind," he reported. "It is in the center of the formation, about 200 kilometers ahead. They have placed it behind 3 rings of escort ships. "Can we get through?" Mercer asked. "There are gaps in the formation. Small ones. If we time it right, we can slip through without touching anyone." "Do it." The Phantom continued its deadly dance through the Kreth fleet. Chief Engineer Kevin Park worked constantly at his station, adjusting power levels and managing heat signatures. Every few minutes, he would route energy through different systems, making sure that nothing leaked out that might alert the enemy. Hours passed. The tension on the bridge grew thicker with every kilometer they traveled. Lieutenant Amanda Chun, the navigator, guided the ship through spaces that seemed impossibly small. Once, a Kreth cruiser changed course unexpectedly, and the Phantom had to stop completely while the massive vessel passed just 50 meters overhead. "That was close," Cole whispered. "Too close," Mercer agreed. "But we keep going." Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the hive mind came into view. It was enormous. The Kreth flagship was not built like other ships. It had been grown, like a living creature. Its hull was made of something that looked like dark purple flesh, covered in scales and strange bumps. Glowing veins ran across its surface, pulsing with blue light. Thousands of smaller drones flew in and out of openings along its sides, like bees entering and leaving a hive. And somewhere deep inside that monstrous vessel were the queens, the minds that controlled the entire Kreth invasion force. "Target acquired," Webb announced. "I am reading multiple neural clusters throughout the ship. The main command center is located in the forward section. Can you get a firing solution?" Webb shook his head. "Not from here. We need to get closer." About 10 kilometers closer. Mercer looked at the tactical display. Between the Phantom and the hive mind were a dozen escort ships, plus countless fighter drones. Getting 10 kilometers closer would mean passing through all of them. "Park," Mercer called. "How much can you reduce our signature?" The engineer thought for a moment. "If I shut down all non-essential systems and vent our heat into the water recyclers, I can make us almost invisible. But if anything goes wrong, we will not have power to escape." "Do it." The lights on the bridge dimmed as power was diverted away from comfort systems. The temperature began to drop. Crew members wrapped themselves in blankets and kept working. The Phantom crept forward, slower than before. Every meter felt like a victory. The escort ships loomed large in the view screen, their weapons arrays pointing outward, searching for threats they could not see. 15 kilometers, Webb counted. 12, 10. "All stop," Mercer ordered. The Phantom hung motionless in space, just 10 kilometers from the hive mind. They were so close that they could see individual scales on the flagship's hull. So close that the glow of its neural veins cast faint light on their windows. "Spectre torpedoes armed and ready," Webb reported. "I have a clear shot at the main neural cluster." Mercer took a deep breath. This was the moment. Everything they had worked for, everything they had risked, came down to this. Fire. The torpedo bay doors opened without a sound. 4 sleek missiles slid out into the darkness of space. They were coated with the same stealth material as the Phantom itself, making them invisible to sensors. They drifted forward slowly at first, building speed gradually to avoid detection. On the bridge, everyone watched and waited. The torpedoes grew smaller and smaller on the view screen until they were just tiny dots against the massive bulk of the hive mind. Then they ignited their main engines. The missiles accelerated to incredible speeds, crossing the final distance in less than a second. The Kreth had no time to react. No time to activate shields. No time to do anything except die. The explosions were beautiful and terrible. Fire bloomed across the front section of the hive mind as the torpedoes tore through its neural cluster. Secondary explosions followed as the damage spread through the ship's organic systems. The giant vessel began to twist and writhe, like a creature in pain. And then something amazing happened. Across the entire battlefield, the Kreth forces stopped moving. Fighter drones that had been attacking Selenari ships suddenly went still, drifting aimlessly. Warships that had been advancing in perfect formation began to scatter in random directions. The mental link that connected all the Kreth warriors to their queens had been severed. Direct hit, Webb confirmed, his voice filled with wonder. The hive mind is breaking apart. The enemy fleet is in complete chaos. Time to leave, Mercer said. Get us out of here, nice and quiet. But as the Phantom began to withdraw, something unexpected happened. One of the Kreth cruisers, perhaps acting on some residual instinct, fired a random burst of plasma into the surrounding space. It was not aiming at anything. It was just shooting blindly, desperately. Trying to hit an enemy it could not see. One of those plasma bolts passed just meters from the Phantom's hull. Alarm screamed across the bridge. Hull stress on Deck 7, Park reported urgently. Stealth plating is damaged. We are starting to show on their sensors. Mercer's heart stopped for a moment. Then his training took over. All power to engines. Get us out of here. Now. The Phantom accelerated, abandoning stealth for speed. Behind them, Kreth ships began to turn, finally aware that something was out there. But they were too late. The human vessel was already pulling away, putting distance between itself and the dying fleet. They are not following, Cole observed. They are too confused to organize a pursuit. Mercer nodded but did not relax. Maintain speed until we clear the system. Then engage quantum drive. It took another hour before they were finally safe. The Phantom slipped into the quantum fold and vanished from Selenari space, leaving behind a shattered invasion fleet and a mystery that would puzzle the galaxy for months. In the medical bay, Dr. Rebecca Santos treated minor injuries. In the engine room, Park worked to repair the damaged stealth plating. On the bridge, Mercer finally allowed himself to feel the exhaustion that had been building for days. We did it, Cole said softly. We actually did it. Yes, Mercer agreed. But this is just the beginning. The galaxy will want to know what happened here. And eventually, someone is going to figure out the truth. He looked out at the stars streaming past the window. We have shown them what we can do, he said. Now we have to be ready for what comes next. Far behind them, the wreckage of the hive mind drifted through space. The Kreth invasion was over. Millions of Selenari lives had been saved. And humanity had proven, for the first time, that they were not the primitive species the galaxy believed them to be. They were warriors. They were survivors. And they were just getting started. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Kreth invasion had collapsed. The mighty hive mind, the flagship that had seemed unstoppable, was destroyed. Millions of Selenari who had been waiting to die were suddenly free. It was a miracle. It was impossible. And nobody knew how it had happened. In the halls of the Galactic Council station, the alien delegates argued and debated. Every species had a different theory about what had destroyed the Kreth flagship. It must have been sabotage, High Counselor Thrakos declared during an emergency meeting. Someone planted a bomb inside the hive mind, perhaps a traitor among the Kreth themselves. Impossible, said Counselor Valeth, her light form pulsing with confusion. The Kreth hive mind would have detected any traitor immediately. Their mental link makes deception impossible. Then perhaps it was a reactor malfunction, suggested the Nexa delegate. A failure in their organic power systems. The damage pattern does not match a reactor explosion, Thrakos replied. Whatever destroyed the hive mind came from outside. Something hit it with weapons that our sensors cannot identify. But there were no other ships in the area, Velas said. Our scouts have searched the entire battlefield. They found nothing. The debate continued for hours, but no one could agree on an explanation. The mystery remained unsolved. Ambassador Catherine Moore and Commander Daniel Hayes watched the discussions from the human section of the council chamber. They kept their faces blank and their thoughts hidden. "They have no idea," Hayes whispered. "And we need to keep it that way," Moore replied. "The longer they look in the wrong direction, the safer we are." But not everyone in the galaxy was willing to accept easy answers. Admiral Crix of the Vorath Intelligence Division was an old soldier who had spent his life uncovering secrets. He had survived dozens of shadow wars by being smarter and more suspicious than everyone else. And right now, his instincts were telling him that something was very wrong. In his private office on the Vorath homeworld, Crix studied the sensor data from the Kreth battlefield. He had been looking at the same information for days, searching for something that everyone else had missed. "Computer," he growled, "analyze all gravitational readings from the area around the hive mind. Look for any unusual fluctuations." The computer processed the data for several minutes. Then it displayed the results on a large screen. Crix leaned forward, his yellow eyes narrowing. There it was, a tiny ripple in the local gravity field, barely noticeable. Something had passed through that point in space. Something massive enough to bend gravity slightly. But the sensors had detected no ship, no weapon, nothing at all. "Interesting," Crix murmured. He pulled up information about the human delegation. Their diplomatic ship, the Horizon, had been docked at the council station during the entire battle. It could not have been involved. But that did not mean humans were innocent. Crix had studied human history. He knew about their wars, their spies, their secret operations. Humans were a species that understood deception better than almost anyone. They had fooled each other for thousands of years. It would not be difficult for them to fool aliens who underestimated them. "Perhaps," Crix said to himself, "it is time to take a closer look at our newest council members." Meanwhile, the USS Phantom had returned to its hidden base in an unnamed asteroid field. The crew was exhausted but proud. They had done something that no one thought possible. They had changed the course of a war without firing a shot that anyone could trace. Captain Ryan Mercer stood in the ship's small memorial room, looking at the photographs of crew members who had died during previous missions. The Phantom program had been running for 50 years, and not everyone had survived. Commander Stephanie Cole found him there. "The crew's asking about our next mission," she said. "They want to know if we are going back out." "Not yet," Mercer replied. "We need to repair the damaged stealth plating first, and we need to see how the galaxy reacts to what we did." "You are worried." "I am cautious. We showed our hand out there. Not completely, but enough. Someone smart might start putting the pieces together." Cole nodded. "The Vorath intelligence services are good. If anyone can figure out the truth, it is them. Which is why we need to be ready." Mercer turned to face her. The Phantom was never meant to fight alone. It was meant to be the first of many. If the galaxy discovers our secret, we need to be able to defend ourselves. Back on Earth, in a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, the leaders of humanity were having a similar conversation. General Christopher Blake stood before a room full of admirals, generals, and government officials. Behind him was a massive screen showing the current state of the galaxy. "The Phantom's mission was a complete success," he announced. "The Kreth invasion has been stopped. The Selenari are rebuilding, and humanity's involvement remains undetected. For now," said Secretary of Defense Natalie Grant. "But how long can we keep this secret? The Vorath are already investigating." "We knew this day would come," Blake replied. "The question is not whether they will find out, but when, and what we do about it." President Andrew Patterson leaned forward in his chair. "What are our options?" Blake touched a control. and the screen changed to show a fleet of ships being constructed in orbital shipyards around Earth and Mars. "The Phantom was never meant to be our only stealth ship," he explained. "It was a prototype, a proof of concept. For the past 10 years, we have been building more, many more." The officials in the room stared at the screen in surprise. There were dozens of ships in those shipyards. Maybe hundreds. "We call it the Ghost Fleet," Blake continued. 312 vessels, all equipped with the same stealth technology as the Phantom. We have been waiting for the right moment to reveal them. If the galaxy discovers our secret, we will have a choice to make. We can either become their greatest threat or their greatest ally. If they attack us first, Grant asked, then they will learn that humanity is not as weak as they thought. The meeting continued for several hours, discussing strategy and preparing for every possible outcome. But one thing was clear. The days of humanity hiding in the shadows were coming to an end. On the council station, Admiral Crix was getting closer to the truth. He had bribed officials, interrogated prisoners, and analyzed data from 100 different sources. And finally, he had found what he was looking for. It was a communication intercept. A fragment of a message sent from the human embassy to Earth, heavily encrypted but not quite secure enough. Crix's codebreakers had spent weeks working on it. And now they had succeeded. The message was short, just a few words. But those words changed everything. Phantom mission successful. Hive mind destroyed. Returning to base. Crix read the message 3 times, making sure he understood its meaning. Then he leaned back in his chair and laughed. The humans had done it. Those primitive, foolish, underestimated humans had somehow built a ship that could destroy a Kreth flagship without being detected. It was incredible. It was terrifying. And it was exactly the kind of threat that the Varath could not ignore. Krix reached for his communicator. It was time to inform the High Council. The galaxy was about to change, and the Varath needed to be ready. As his message traveled across the stars, the humans remained unaware of the storm that was coming. They had won a great victory, but their greatest challenge was still ahead. The galaxy was about to discover the truth about humanity. And when that happened, nothing would ever be the same again. 6 months had passed the destruction of the Kreth hive mind. The Selenari had rebuilt their colonies. The Kreth had retreated to their territory, weakened and humiliated. The galaxy had returned to something like normal, but Admiral Crix had not forgotten. He spent those 6 months gathering evidence. He bribed, threatened, and eliminated anyone who stood in his way. He tracked down every communication, every sensor reading, every tiny clue that pointed to human involvement in the Kreth defeat. And finally, he had enough proof to present to the Varath High Command. "The humans have a ghost ship," he announced to the assembled generals and counselors. "A vessel that can become completely invisible to all sensors. They used it to destroy the hive mind without being detected." General Vrax, the commander of the Varath military, slammed his massive fist against the table. "This is unacceptable. If humans have this technology, they are a threat to every species in the galaxy. We must destroy them before they can build more of these vessels." "I agree," High Counselor Threkos said. "We will assemble the fleet and attack Earth immediately. We will burn their planet and end this threat forever." But Crix raised a scaled hand. "Wait. Consider the situation carefully. If humans could build one ghost ship, they can build more. And if they can build ghost ships, what else have they been hiding? We know almost nothing about their true capabilities. What are you suggesting?" Threkos demanded. "I am suggesting that we confront them first. Demand they surrender their technology. If they refuse, we will have justification for war. And we will have time to prepare for whatever surprises they might have." After much debate, the plan was approved. 3 days later, the Galactic Council convened in full assembly. But this time, the atmosphere was different. Armed Varath guards stood along every wall. The alien delegates watched the human representatives with cold, suspicious eyes. Something was about to happen, and everyone knew it. Ambassador Catherine Moore entered the chamber with Commander Daniel Hayes at her side. She noticed the guards immediately. She saw the way the other species looked at her, but she kept her face calm and walked to the human platform as if nothing was wrong. High Counselor Threkos rose from his seat. His voice echoed through the massive hall. Ambassador Moore, the Council has discovered that your species has been deceiving us. You possess technology far beyond what you have revealed. Stealth capabilities, advanced weapons, ships that can destroy enemy fleets without being seen. Moore kept her expression neutral. I am not sure what you mean, Counselor. Do not lie to us, human. Threkos slammed his fist against his podium, creating a boom that echoed through the chamber. We know about your ghost ship. We know it destroyed the Kreth flagship. You have violated the transparency agreements of the Sacred Accords. You will surrender this technology immediately, or face the consequences. The chamber fell completely silent. Every eye was on the human delegation. Moore turned to Commander Hayes. They looked at each other for a long moment, communicating without words. They had prepared for this day. They had planned for every possibility. And now the time had come. Commander, Moore said quietly, I believe it is time. Hayes nodded and raised his communicator to his mouth. Phantom, this is Hayes. Execute Protocol Omega. For several seconds, nothing happened. The alien delegates shifted nervously in their seats. Threkos looked confused and angry. What is this? He demanded. Some kind of trick? Then someone gasped. And another. And another. Through the massive viewport of the council chamber, something incredible was happening. Space itself seemed to shimmer and ripple, like water disturbed by a stone. And then, out of nowhere, a ship appeared. The USS Phantom, decloaked directly in front of the council station. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Sleek black hull, sharp angles, weapons that glowed with deadly energy. It hung in space like a predator, revealing itself to its prey. But the Phantom was not alone. One by one, more ships appeared. They materialized from empty space, becoming visible where nothing had been before. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Each one as deadly as the Phantom. Each one proof that humanity was not what the galaxy believed. Commander Hayes spoke again, his voice carrying through the stunned silence of the chamber. 312 vessels. The Phantom was never alone. It was simply the first. Threkos staggered backward. His face showed emotions that humans rarely saw on Vorath features. Shock, fear, disbelief. Impossible, he whispered. You could not have built such a fleet. You are primitives. You are nothing. We are survivors, Ambassador Moore said, stepping forward. Her voice was strong and clear. For thousands of years, our species fought against each other. We learned the art of war. We learned how to hide, how to deceive, how to strike from the shadows. When we finally reached the stars, we knew that we would face challenges greater than anything we had experienced before. So we prepared. She walked toward the center of the chamber, addressing all the delegates. You laughed at us. You mocked our ships, our weapons, our history. You called us primitive and foolish. And all that time, we were building, learning, waiting. Counselor Valis' light form flickered rapidly. What do you want? What we have always wanted, Moore replied. Equality, respect, a place at this table where our voice is heard, not ridiculed. She paused, letting her words settle over the assembly. We did not reveal our fleet to threaten you. We revealed it to show you that we are not to be dismissed. When the Selenari were dying, when millions of innocent beings faced destruction, None of you would help. You made excuses. You protected yourselves. But humanity acted. We did what was right when no one else would. And if we refuse your demands? Thrakos found his voice again, though it was weaker than before. If we choose war? From the communication system came the voice of Captain Ryan Mercer, calm and steady. Then you will learn something else about humanity, Counselor. We do not start fights, but we always finish them. The silence stretched on for what felt like forever. The alien delegates looked at each other, uncertain what to do. The galaxy they had known for thousands of years had just changed completely. Everything they believed about humans had been wrong. Then Counselor Velith moved forward. Her form shifted to a bright golden color, the Selenari sign of deep respect. My people owe our lives to humanity, she said. When everyone else abandoned us, humans came to our rescue. The Selenari stand with Earth. Other delegates began to respond. The Nexar representative raised a tendril in agreement. The Threlian collective announced they were abandoning their neutrality to support humanity. One by one, the smaller species joined the humans. Thrakos watched his political power crumble before his eyes. The Varath were strong, but they could not fight the entire galaxy. He was a survivor. He knew when he was beaten. Very well, he said finally. His voice was heavy with reluctant respect. It seems the galaxy has underestimated humanity. That is a mistake we will not make again. Moore allowed herself a small smile. We look forward to working with you, Counselor. As equals, the session ended, and the delegates began to leave. Some approached the humans with friendly words. Others kept their distance, still processing what had happened. But everyone knew that this day would be remembered in history books for centuries to come. Commander Hayes stood at the viewport, watching the Ghost Fleet hold its position around the station. Each ship was crewed by men and women who had trained their whole lives for this moment. Each ship represented years of work, sacrifice, and dedication. Ambassador Moore joined him at the window. Do you think they will really accept us now? Hayes asked. Some will, she replied. Others will plot against us. They will try to steal our technology, undermine our alliances, weaken our position. That is the nature of politics. And what do we do about it? Moore looked out at the stars. Billions of worlds. Countless species. An entire galaxy that had just learned to fear and respect humanity. We stay strong, she said. We stay united. And we never forget what brought us here. Far away, in the command center of the USS Phantom, Captain Mercer watched the diplomatic proceedings come to an end. His crew had done the impossible. They had changed the course of history without firing a single shot in anger. Commander Cole stood beside him. What happens now? She asked. Mercer thought about all the challenges that still lay ahead. New alliances to build. Old enemies to watch. A galaxy that would never look at humanity the same way again. Now, he said, we show them what we can really do. The Ghost Fleet hung silently in space, a testament to human ingenuity and determination. The aliens had mocked humanity. They had laughed and dismissed them as primitive newcomers. They were not laughing anymore, and this was only the beginning.